Okay, so this one is array change. I first found the question a little bit confusing. Took a while to wrap my head around what the question was actually asking me. So timestamp's going to be in the description below. The first part of the video is just going to be explaining the question and just going in depth with the tests and examples and just explaining what it's asking to maybe give you a chance to actually answer it. And then the second part of the video will be just going through the solution. So first of all, you're given an array of integers, and on each move you are allowed to increase exactly one of its element by 1. You need to find the minimal number of moves required to obtain a strictly increasing sequence from the input. So our first input is 1 and 1 and 1. We need to make this input array strictly increasing. So our first value is 1, and then the next one in the original array is 1, but comparing 1 and 1 is not strictly increasing, so we need to make it strictly increasing, and the next value needs to be 2. Now we need to compare 2 and 1. Well, 2 and 1 is actually decreasing, and we need to make it so it's increasing. So the next value needs to be 3. Now we need to check out the differences. So 1 and 1, the difference is 0. 1 and 2, the difference is 1. And 1 and 3, the difference is 2. If we were to add these differences up together, we'll get the output of 3. And that's what it's looking for here. So if we go to test 2, and let's just copy and paste this. So we have our array, minus 1000, 0, minus 2, and 0. So first of all, we're given minus 1000. Now we need to check out and see if minus 1000 to 0 is increasing or decreasing. Well, it's actually increasing, so that means we don't need to do anything, because we want it so that our array is increasing. So our next value can actually be 0. Now we need to compare 0 and minus 2. Comparing 0 and minus 2 is actually decreasing, and we want to have our new array so it's increasing. So our next value needs to be 1. Now we compare 1 and 0, which once again is decreasing. So we need to make it so that our new value is 2. So now we need to compare the differences. So minus 1000 and minus 1000, so that's 0. Compare 0 and 0, which is 0. Minus 2 and 1, which is 3. And 0 and 2, which is 2. Add these differences up together, and we get our output of 5. And that's what we're looking for. Let's go on to test 3. So our input array is 2, 1, 10, and 1. So we start off with 2. Look at 2 and 1, which is decreasing, so we need to make it so it's increasing, so it has to be 3 for our next value. Look at 3 and 10, which is increasing. Awesome. So we can keep it the same, don't need to do anything. Now look at 10 and 1, which is decreasing, so we need to make it so it's increasing, which is the next value would be 11. Now we need to look at the differences. Well, 2 and 2 is 0, 1 and 3 is 2, 10 and 10 is 0, and 1 and 11 is 10. Now we add these differences together, we get the output of 12, and that's what we're looking for. So let's close this down. What we know is we're going to be counting the differences together. So we can have a counter, and the counter will equal 0. When we find out the differences, we'll then add this difference onto the counter each time, and then we'll return the counter at the end of our function. So now we need to sort of pair the two values together and find out if when comparing sort of the two values, if it's increasing, decreasing, or the same. And if it's decreasing or the same, that's when we know that we need to do something about it. However, if it's increasing, we can just leave it be. We don't need to make any changes. So a way in how we can compare two values together is using the reduce method. So if we do input array dot reduce, and then A and B. So now we need to find out if it's increasing, decreasing, or the same. So if we do if A is less than or equal to B, which would mean, looking at, let's go to a test down here. So on test 3, so 2 and 1. So if 2 is less than or equal to B, then we know that it's going to be a decreasing sequence, or it's going to be the same, so it won't be increasing. And that's when we need to do something. So first thing that we'd need to do is say, okay, we need to find out the difference. So if we do const difference is equal to, so at the moment A is 2 and B is 1. It's a decrease in sequence, so we need to do something about it. The difference at the moment is 1. However, our new value actually needs to be 3. So we need to compare the difference between 3 and 1. So if we are to do A plus 1, which would be now 3, minus B, which is 1. So now we're looking at 3 minus 1 is our difference. So now we have our counter. Our counter is equal to whatever value our counter currently is, plus the difference. And now what we need to do is 3 is going to be our new value in the next sort of lot of pairs, in our next two pairs to compare to each other. So we'd want to compare 3 and 10, which is actually going to be increasing, but we'll get to that. So our next one would need to return. So what do we need to pump back into reduce? Well, we need to pump the number 3 back into reduce, and how we would get that is A plus 1. So our next sort of A and B would be 3 and 10. So does this work out? Well, yeah, it's increasing, so we don't need to do anything, but the number which we'd need to pump back in is 10, because that would be the next one in our strictly increasing sequence. So if we still in our reduce function, or reduce method, sorry, return B, so then we have, we're then comparing B, which is pumped back in, which is 10, and 1. Well, that's decreasing, so this logic here would now be run. So we'd then do, which A is now 10. So 10 plus 1 is 11, minus B, which is 1, so our difference is 10. Counter, so our counter is 2 at the moment. So we'll do 2 plus 10, which is what our difference is, which would give us 12 for our counter. And then if it was going to be, if there was another number here, we would then do 10 plus 1, because that is going to be our new value in the new array, which would then give us 11 to then do our next compare. And then once this reduce method has finished, we just want to return counter, and that will give us our expected output. So if we run the tests, 0 and 0. So what's going on here? Output is 1, expected output is 3. Minus 2000, nice. Okay, so const difference is I believe this is correct here. Let's just do console .log difference, run the tests. 1. Why is that only doing it the once? Oh. That's only if it's increasing. And we want to do it if A is greater than or equal to B. So if the sequence is level or decreasing. Oh, okay. Yes, perfect. So this is the final output or the final solution. The only mistake here which I made was I was looking at if A was less than or equal to B. So if the sequence was increasing or the same, which is not what we want. We want if the sequence is decreasing or the same. That's when we want to make a change. So run the tests and then we get 10 out of 10 and then submit.